Cheery. Hello all. I thought I'd do another video on the Cailleach because it seems like a lot of people are getting what I've said in my previous videos wrong or taking it out of context and what I'm saying. And a lot of people are coming back to me and saying, well, she is a goddess. Let's look at these stories in which, she creates parts of the landscape, but lochs or mountains, streams. And I'm not doubting that. I'm just simply saying that the word kaya has a number of different meanings to different aspects of old woman or to last sheaf of corn to plants to owls like the term kaya it's not a name for a goddess. And also I like to say I'm not disputing that these specific legends and which in the legend they are called the kaya that they don't stem from something quite older. I'm not disputing that. I'm just simply saying that within the culture of the Highlands and the Hebrides, it's maybe the name of this goddess, if it is, that are creating these landscapes or goddesses. You never know. Um, that the name of it is long gone from their folk memory, and what they're basically saying is, oh, some old woman with magical powers, created that mountain. We don't know her name, but we know it was an old woman, and she was mystical and she was powerful, that sort of thing. So, um, and the idea. So there's another idea as well that stems from like that the word kayak is has older roots within um, ancient Irish culture, and then it's carried on through the Highlands and whatnot. And there's that kind of idea of it, which I'm very skeptical of. And this is mostly responsible to what people know of is the Anhaliach Beare, Anhaliach Vera, the lament of the old woman of Beare. And that's this is like a poem that's recorded within, well, there's dispute. Some say it's 8th century, some say it's 11th century Ireland, recorded by monks. And essentially, this poem is about a woman, an old woman, and she's lamenting, the passing of her youth and her decrepit old age, and thus the loss of her people. In the book of Lecan, she's mentioned as, and also it mentions in the poem as well, that she's the mother or foster mother of the ancestors of a number of predominant clans. Now, yes, this poem is like sort of saying she is of the ancient religion or the native religion before Christianity, and she's saying that she's the foster mother, the mother of the ancestors of these predominant clans, and so. But then there's other academics again within that period of the 1920s, 30s, such as Gerald Murphy, who is making broad claims that the term Cailleach is like a unified term for all these different myths that are going on within Ireland and Scotland and the Isle of Man and all the Gaelic sort of speaking areas, or Goiga or Gaelic or whatever, Gaelic. And again, this is in contributing to that goddess myth. And I'll explain this in depth. So this, first of all, I looked at the paper through my university portal, on Gerald Murphy's thesis, which he makes claims that this is one person. All these legends are one person, and in his translation of a part of it explains in itself, which um, in how the term is used. So first of all, it says the old woman Beare, her name is Digde. Digde. So we've already got a name for her, for the old woman of Beare. So her name's Digde. They use at the first, it's Shanderi Digde. So she's saying the word used for old woman in this poem is Shante, or Shentain. This might be an older version of what they use in Gaelic is Shanche, what I talked about in the first video for old woman. It then goes on to Fian Clam has bequeathed to them what they have should never be without some wonderful, glorious nun, brackets, old woman, amongst them. Now, in the Gaelic, for nun, an old woman, then Robot Cailleach is used. Cailleach. So we can see that in the poem of the lament of the old woman of Beare, she already has a name. They use the word Shantain. Could be old Irish for what we use for Shanche. Her name, it states her name. Her name is Gija, very similar to how you pronounce Brija, St. Brige. And that in the context in which they're saying Cailleach or Cailleach, it's referred as an old woman, or her as a nun. And this is the root word, you see. So the root word of Cailleach is Cai or Cailleach, and that means hooded. So in the word itself means hood, like veiled one, hooded one. And that's why it was essentially in Old Irish, it was a word to refer to a nun or someone of a religious authority. And then later down the line, it's associated with an old woman with a connotation to it, like the words that we use as hag in English. But yeah, so people are using this space, and like I said, I've read Gerald Murphy's thesis on this, and he doesn't really give much basis to what he's saying, other than the breakdown of the word, and he mostly makes the point that it's actually older, that the poem's older than the 11th century, and is actually 8th century by comparing Old Gaelic or Old Irish to mid Gaelic, so Gaelic Irish. Sorry. So he's more making this an argument about that really as well. So, but he doesn't make a really good argument as why he thinks all these other legends are connected to one goddess, and which is in the poem Gija. So, and what I would like to say is, it's very unlikely that this is passed on to the Highlands or the Hebrides. Like I said, I don't dispute that there was some kind of deity that were or deities or goddesses that were creating these locks and mountains, and that maybe it's just lost within folk memory. What we got to think about here is that before the Gaels, which are the Celtic missionaries, the Celtic Christian missionaries are moving from Ireland, which they already have the kingdom, which became the kingdom of Daldiata, which governs parts of the north of Ireland and parts of the Hebrides. When that becomes parts of the Daldiata, these are Celtic Christian missionaries, so they're setting up like chapels and monasteries to spread Christianity to the Pictish lands. So, yes, this quite possibly the might be deities that were legends known by the Pictish people, but as they have been like sort of conquered and moved off further away from the Hebrides, and they have a much smaller kingdom of Pictiland or Pictish land. You know, I always think it's always easy to forget a name than a story, isn't it? So, I mean, there's many times that I have tried to tell a story, and I do, awfully sometimes, about the Tuatha De Danann. I can remember just the story, but when it comes to names, or even memorizing people's names when I met them, it's gone out of my head like that. So when you've got to think about a human, us as humanity, as years go by line of these Christian missionaries coming from Ireland that speak Gaelic, and yes, they have a culture to them which is Christian, animistic, and holding still old beliefs. We got to think here that these legends about who create the mountains, the lochs, the streams, quite possibly come from other natives before the Gals. So the Pictish, maybe even stories coming from the Norse, because we know that the Norse people later on, after the Gaels, conquered part of the Hebrides, and which obviously then later on was able to be defeated back through the Gaels, and still to this day have a culture with Shetland and Orkney of having roots with Norway through the Viking raids. So we're going to see here that first of all, the word chaillach is a term. And it is a term for quite a few things other than old woman, in like modern day Gaelic, as I've previously in previous videos have discussed. But also we've got to think here that maybe there is deities that are connected with them through other cultural influences than the Gaels. So that's what we've got to keep account of. So I'm not disputing that these legends that of a female supernatural being creating parts of the landscape around the Hebrides and the Highlands are not some kind of long ago deity. I'm not disputing that. I'm just simply saying that the term chaillach is a term. It's not a name for a goddess, and it certainly isn't the idea of a unified goddess that attributes all of these stories into one. The idea of archetypes is quite a modern invention, as we know, like through the 20th century and then carried on through neo-paganism. It's quite a new idea. It's not an idea in which is shared or sort of believed within the Highlands. And yeah, so what I'm basically saying here is that there's other legends connected to that are other. Let's put it in a sense. There are other tales in which the characters are referred to chaillach or chaillach, and they're people. It could be as simple as like the Cailleach Vuan, the old woman of the mill, or the last sheaf of corn. Where do we get to the point where we're like, right, so she's the goddess of harvest because she's the last sheaf of corn. She's she's the spirit the mill, la la la, this now. Does she then become a goddess of everything? No. Like, again, we have to see the word chaillach as a term. Like we would say old hag, like, or grandmother, ancestress, and I think the idea, like, a lot of people think that they feel dismystified or disempowered when you take the word goddess from it. When in fact, in my knowledge, it's like having a bag of crystals, put them in a bag, all together in one bag, and just saying, bag of crystals. Oh, that's my bag of crystals. Without looking at each individual crystal for its individual qualities and its look and its aesthetic. That's essentially, so really you're not disempowering you, like, by seeing an animistic light or seeing for the term in what it's used. I think um I think we give more honor to these stories, in which we see them all as individual and individual beauties in which they are, you know. But yeah, like, I think it's just food for thought, and you know, I just want to say, like, in conclusion, I'm not disputing, because I know, like, traits happen. I know how stories are carried on, and some stories are carried on for like centuries, and thousands of years. But as we know, as like Chinese whispers, they are added, that they are diluted over the years. So we don't actually know the names of these deities that are connected, that are creating the lochs and the mountains and the streams that are connected in legend. However, you can see it, you can still honor her. I'm just saying, when you use the word kayak, just use it with caution. Use it in which the sense, in which Gaelic communities and Gaelic culture use that term, and seeing it like, okay, like if you ever find yourself in the Hebrides and you're by Ben Nevis or Loch Ness, or or any other places that she's connected to, in creating the landscape, um, you could see in the sense that we do not know the name of this deity, but we call her old woman, we call her grandmother, you know, we call this particular deity or this particular spirit, great spirit, Cailleach. She's what we call the grandmother, we call the old lady, the hag. Um, but yeah, and being connected with weather as well, it's spirits, it's could be long ago deities, it's it's the old woman that's a bit strange at the end of the village. It's the landlady. It's she's the ancestress of the land. The first one living there. The kayak is a term for many things, but one thing it's not is a term for all of these things. You know. Um, so yeah, I just wanted to share light on that. And I hope you're enjoying my videos. I hope I'm not offending too many people. That's not my intention. I just want to bring light to a subject in which I feel that the Gaelic community have been failed on, really. Like, they felt betrayed, not betrayed, but a bit saddened, that people are sort of appropriating culture, appropriating their culture, without the meaning or the knowledge in which these words are used, or in which these how these legends are seen or viewed, and their history. So yeah, that's all for now. Blessings to you all.